jump right in, Steve, because we were talking before we went live, and I said I feel like we have to talk about Matt Gaetz. Like we can't ignore the literal elephant in the room. All right, so give me your okay. Let me ask it this way, and then you go take it the way you want. Will Matt Gaetz serve a day as the Attorney General in a Donald Trump administration?
No.
Okay. Tell me why.
No, he's not. He's not going to get confirmed. And I think that there's a couple of things going on right now. So I look at the numbers, and I actually think this is going to be a big deal in the weeks ahead. Small moral victory, but Donald Trump will not wind up with majority support in the electorate. It will be a plurality victory. He will drop down, I suspect, looking at the numbers coming in under that 50% mark. And so this is and still is a closely divided country.
Yep.
So I could go on for a long time about some of the deficiencies that led to the scene that we saw today in the White House with Trump and Biden.
And we will get into that.
And that's Biden's legacy. There it is. And a couple of hours later, we have Tulsi Gabbard, who's as equally unfit to be the director of national intelligence, joining Pete Hegseth, who's as equally unfit, nominated as defense secretary. So the American people are fickle. And I just would remind everybody watching the approval level for the Iraq war on the day the bombing began was 77%.
Yep.
And it doesn't end up like this. So experience and suffering are great teachers. I would say to everybody, like we're going to get into this, there is no department that Elon Musk is heading. It doesn't exist.
Nope.
There is no agency. There's no budget. There's no statute. There's no authority.
I mean, literally, just like you and I could make up it,
yes.
And that would have you and I could say, Chris Cillizza and Steve are doing the Department of whatever, Substack and YouTube. Like it has the exact same current authority as the thing Vivek Ramaswamy and Musk are doing.
Now, Trump won the election. Trump controls the Senate. MAGA controls the Senate. It's supposed to be a co-equal branch of government. Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, plus. And I guess my question is, what is the line? Because no serious person who cares about civil liberties, the Constitution, votes for Matt Gaetz, who was under investigation until literally the moment he resigned Congress for illegal drug use, hard drugs, coke, sleeping with underage women, Attorney General of the United States. It's just unacceptable. And it gives you a glimpse into the future of what this is going to be like. And literally tomorrow morning is 713 days until the midterm election, which is right. The years are right. The years are short. The days are long, and we're gonna have some long days over the next 2 short years.
I think my favorite reaction, like just so people know, like Matt Gaetz is not for everything Steve said. I'll add one thing. Matt Gaetz is very. I don't know if reviled is the right word, but very disliked among Republicans, even in Congress. My favorite response was Mike Simpson, who's like an old-timey Republican. He's from Idaho. He's been there forever, kind of an establishment guy. He said, some reporter said, "Oh, did you hear that Gaetz got the nomination from Trump for HE?" He said, "You got to be shitting me," which is like my favorite, like honest response. Because I do think I'm stunned that he. You know what? Were you surprised? Let me ask you this, and then we'll move on. Were you surprised when you heard the Gaetz thing or not?
I am. I have an emotional dissonance that every time one of these is revealed, I'm simultaneously shocked yet not surprised.
Yeah.
So the experience of it sitting, and I'm not happy about this. Let's just say that my public disposition towards this has been worst case scenario for a long time. And so there are people that are close to me that in the 24, 48 hours after the election, call up and say, I don't think you should use the word fascist, which I've used to describe and I think is appropriate. You are catastrophizing this. And I listen and I try to be humble and I try to look in the mirror and say, but then when he makes this appointment, I know that I am right and that everything that I have said is going to come to pass, right? That this will be a catastrophe. You have in the form of Tulsi Gabbard, for those of you listening, who may or may not remember her trip to Syria, to Bashar al-Assad, extremely strange. This is a fringe congresswoman. No difference between her and a Marjorie Taylor Greene. Same person. This is a deeply, deeply unfit person who parrots all the time Vladimir Putin's talking points. She is what is called a useful idiot, right? And she's going to be the director of national intelligence and to say nothing of the Fox News loon who's been nominated as defense secretary. And the reality is the Senate has to kill all three of these nominees. I mean, if you're a United States senator and you give a fuck at all, and I mean that, at all, there's some conversation that takes place in Washington, and I'm encouraged, and by encouraged, I mean a scintilla of encouragement with John Thune, because that signals that of the three, the Senate was sending a message to MAGA that we're the United States Senate, we're going to be independent. So I don't know what happens here, but these people, right, are unfit. And by the way, the Senate Democrats have some prerogatives here. They're going to get the FBI reports on these people. They're going to vet them. They're going to get to question them. And these processes should be brutal. And this idea that Trump is going to circumvent the Senate confirmation process is a delusion. I cannot imagine that it's going to happen. But if it does, and Trump is able to assemble the most unfit cabinet in American history with a capitulation on the part of the U.S. Senate regarding their advice and consent, then we're at a place in the country really where our democracy is under deep threat by action, not just word. And at that point, we start having questions about civil disobedience, about mass protests, or it's all gone in 6 months to a year.
I think it's so interesting you mentioned, and we're going to move on. It's interesting you mentioned Tulsi Gabbard, because I had a friend in the intelligence world say, after the Gaetz thing, which was right or almost simultaneous with the Gabbard thing, say, look, I know the Gaetz thing is going to get the most attention, I get it, but that the Gabbard thing was what he was more concerned about because of who she is in her background and the role, right? And his estimation of the likelihood that she was more likely to get confirmed than Gaetz, which I thought was like, I know we focus on Gaetz. I get why we focus on Gaetz, but I actually think, I'm glad you mentioned that because I think it's a good point.
I'm Steve Schmidt. This is The Warning, and I invite you to subscribe on our Substack, on our YouTube channel. Follow us. Welcome to the community.